The circle is broken. There will be one Lion King.
Barry, I'm going to start with you here. You'll both learn I love big two-part questions.
Cool.
What is something about your approach to directing that stays the same from project to project? But then also, what is something about Mufasa that called for something new, given it's a completely different style of filmmaking?
Cool. One thing that stays the same is it's about characters, and I love conversations, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, because some conversations involve no words. And you can see from the movement of the camera, from the relationship of the characters, like how that conversation feels, like what the emotion is. The audience can intuit. Whoa, the audience can intuit. We are live at the safari.
The conversation with no words with this.
We can intuit what is happening. And I think on Mufasa, it was about taking these virtual production tools and finding a way to do the same thing. And part of that was just like getting as much of the environment built, the sky, all those different things, and then putting it into action, on stage with the cinematographer, with the animators, and just, coming up with this petri dish of movement.
The answer to this might be no, but is there any kind of reverse effect you think will happen from that, where making something in this style, made you tap into a different corner of directing that you never even realized was there before that you can now carry over to your live action work?
Yeah, I think definitely. One, we start the film with all the voices, so directing the actors purely vocal performance was really interesting. And then directing the blocking, purely physical performance, really interesting as well. Your mind clicks into this different mode. But I think beyond that too, using these tools to sort of create an environment, create a lighting schematic, get all these things in motion, and then come in with actors, with the camera. You can do it both in this virtual production, you can do it in live action. Matt Reeves used it on The Batman, Greg Fraser used it on Dune 2. We will use it on Moonlight Part 3, whatever we do next going forward, because it really gives you a head start on understanding how the characters are going to interact with the environment.
Come back to your actors in a sec. Lynn, for you, I have to start digging into the songs here. Surprise, surprise, two-part question. Of all the new songs in this movie, which came to you the quickest? Like, just the song magically appeared, but then I also want to know which song in the film required the most workshopping to perfect.
Oh, that's a great question. I think, honestly, the answer to your first question is the last song, because I wrote pretty consecutively. Started with I Always Wanted a Brother, and kind of worked my way through. So by the time and what an incredible privilege to get to write this moment where Taka emotionally has this turn, without giving away spoilers, but it's a pretty heightened emotion that came tumbling out because we'd done the groundwork, and Barry and his team had done the groundwork to set up that moment. And I think the one that took the most care and had the most levels of iteration was probably Milele. That song, it's tough describing Paradise. So I actually listened to a lot of spirituals. I listened to a lot of church music to sort of figure out what kind of vibe I was going for. And then I also left a lot of space in the melody because I knew I wanted Le Bohème to come in, bring his incredible choral harmonies and African harmonies to just take it to the next level.
The answer to this might be no, because you just brought up listening to other music for inspiration on that. Is there any particular original song from The Lion King that you found weighing on your mind most while crafting these new songs?
No, I really, again, I feel like Lion King's so much a part of our bloodstream. Not only that 1994 original, but, the musical, thanks to the genius of Julie Taymor and Le Bohème and Mark Mancina. It's one of the longest running Broadway musicals of all time. So I didn't need a refresher course in Lion King. I've listened to it so much over the years. So yeah, no, not really. I mean, what was great was I felt like Jeff's script was so clear as to what the moments were that it was just about serving that.
Totally understood. The Lion King, the original, is just part of my being.
Yeah,
Exactly.
100%. All of us.
Barry, going back to your cast, I'm just obsessed with Aaron and Kelvin. I think they're two of the greatest actors, and I think everyone needs to know how special they are. Can you remember the very first thing you saw in each of them that signaled to you not only would you two be perfect for the roles of Mufasa and Taka, but you'll also be a good collaborator for me?
Yeah, I mean, with Aaron, I first saw Aaron on stage in London at the Royal Shakespeare. He was performing Othello, and I just knew there was something about him. He had this energy. It's a kind of theater where you have to project, not just vocally, but physically, really throw your image sort of across the space. And I felt like he just did that, and yet he preserve the nuance of the performance he was giving. And his voice is just amazing. We're not trying to imitate the voice of James Earl Jones, but you have to believe this voice could become the voice of James Earl Jones. With Kelvin, when you watch the 1994 film, there's just something very special about the way Jeremy Irons performs that character. There's like a hurt, there's like a woundedness, there's a bitterness, despite all the anger and the evilness. You can tell there's deep wells of feeling there, and Kelvin just really embraced that, like the deliciousness, the fun, the menace of it. And I just thought, oh, these guys as a pair, they're gonna really bounce off one another really well.
I told Kelvin there's one point in the movie where it's almost like the Taka and the scar of it all blend together, and like you can't separate them, and that's exactly what I wanted to see in this part of that character's arc. Question for both of you, inspired by what happens in the movie, because in general, I love stories about found family, and I also know found family is absolutely vital in this industry for everyone's success. We need to lift each other up. So early on in your careers, can you name someone who kind of, filled that role in your lives? Someone you met that made you feel like you belonged here and you can thrive in this industry?
I mean, I'm still working with all my friends from film school. James Laxon, Adela Romansky, Mark Sariak, Joy McMillan, our cinematographer, editor, producers. I'm still working with all these people. And honestly, Moonlight wouldn't have happened without Adela Romansky calling me up and saying, I want to work with people I love on things they care about. And that was it. And let's find the film that does that. So I can deeply relate to the themes of found family in this film. I think it's the only reason why I'm sitting here talking to you right now.
Yeah, and the full circle, all the full circle things you're describing, that resonate with me so much. Tommy Kail was someone I met the week after I graduated from college. And he was someone who, when I was working on my first show in the Heights, not only encouraged me to keep writing and was the only person giving me a deadline in those early days when I was still teaching at my old high school, but was also great at saying no when the wrong opportunity presented itself, which is so hard when you're young and you just want anyone to put on your show. He was like, no, I think we should just keep working on it, making it better. And all these years later, I was just in Hawaii where he's directing the live action Moana. So the full circleness of that is just staggering to me.
I love it. I could hear stories like that all day long. It's of the utmost importance. I'm going to say thank you for your time and huge congratulations on Mufasa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.